Hi, I'm Chrissy, and welcome to AnchorLight Psychology. Here we talk about psychology and how it shows up in everyday life, in our thoughts, in our relationships, in our behaviors, and especially in our healing. Some of these episodes are more research informed, and others are more personal. All of the episodes are very honest. If you're here to learn more about yourself and who you are, and to learn more about the people around you, this is the space for you. I just want to thank you for being here and for watching, and let's get started. Hey everyone, it's Chrissy, and this is AnchorLight Psychology. Here we talk about the internal shifts that don't always get noticed, the psychological patterns beneath our lived experiences, and the quiet moments that shape who we're becoming. Today, I wanted to talk about self-care, but not the kind that's been watered down into a trend. I want to talk about self-care as repair. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that rest is something we earn, right? That's what it is, right? That we have to do enough, that we have to carry enough, that we have to prove enough before we're actually allowed to stop. But what if rest isn't a reward for exhaustion? What if rest is necessary maintenance for a system that's been running way too long? Self-care has been framed as indulgent or optional or extra. But real self care often doesn't feel indulgent at all. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it even feels like doing nothing and fighting the urge to feel guilty about it, of course. And psychologically, that nothing is doing far more than we actually realize. Here's a little psychology nugget. I love throwing these in for each episode. I really enjoyed that with the first one. So I thought, let's just throw in psychology nuggets on every episode. So, first psychology nugget: your nervous system has two primary states: the sympathetic system, which is responsible for alertness, urgency, and survival, the parasympathetic system, which is responsible for rest, for digestion, and for repair. And here's the key part: healing does not happen in survival mode. I am going to say that one more time, and please hear me. Healing does not happen in survival mode. And I know there are so many of us that run in survival mode. When you rest, you're not disengaging from life. You are shifting your body into the only state where repair can occur. Now, I learned this the extreme hard way. There was actually a period in my life where I was under so much prolonged stress that my body began reacting before my mind ever slowed down. I broke out in rashes, I kept getting sick, and eventually I landed myself right in the hospital. They ran tests, they looked for explanations, and when nothing concrete showed up, it was ultimately chalked up to prolonged exposure to stress and neglect of self-care. My body had been carrying what I refused to pause for. I'm going to say that again. So my body had actually been carrying what I refused to pause for. That pause could have released that. Another psychology nugget: chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated. Now, over time, elevated cortisol weakens your immune response. It triggers inflammatory skin reactions. It disrupts sleep and digestion, and it keeps the body in a constant state of defense. When stress becomes the baseline, the body eventually speaks louder. And that's what happens. That is what happens. And it is so much more common than people realize until it hits you. And then you're like, oh, I maybe heard something about that. And here I am in the hospital now. Now, that experience changed how I understand rest because it showed me something very important. The body doesn't wait for permission to protect itself. So if we don't slow down voluntarily, the system will eventually force a pause. And that's exactly what that is. That's what happened to me. It was forcing a pause. It was like, okay, I'm trying to speak to you. I'm trying to show you. You need a pause, not as a punishment, but as protection. Another psychology nugget. The brain uses rest to consolidate emotional processing and to restore balance. This is why insight, relief, and clarity often come after rest, not during constant effort. Rest isn't the interruption of healing. Rest is where healing actually happens. This is why self-care doesn't always look like a treat. That's what we think of it as. You see that, take care of yourself, all these beautiful Instagram memes with the baths and the lotions and the pretty backgrounds. And, that is nice. That's a nice pause. But sometimes it looks like going to bed earlier than expected, canceling plans without explanation, choosing silence over stimulation, letting your nervous system lead instead of your productivity. That's such a huge one. And, granted, life doesn't always give us a lot of options when it comes to our pauses. So we really have to be strategic about how we do that, especially in a busy world, which demands so much from us. But it is possible. Give yourself grace and just make sure that you're really finding, the right time and speaking up for yourself in certain moments where you have to, where you say, "Hey, I need this." Being able to speak up for yourself, protect your body, protect yourself. Doing these things, it's not dramatic and it might not even be visible, but it is regulating. And that is so important. Another psychology nugget. Many high functioning adults live in chronic hyperarousal. That's always anticipating, always adjusting, managing outcomes. Rest retrains the nervous system to tolerate calm without scanning for threat. That's why rest can feel unfamiliar at first. It's a new neurological experience. If resting feels uncomfortable for you, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. I need you to hear that. It does not mean it's bad for you or that you're doing something wrong. It often means you're not used to safety without effort. And that's not a flaw. That is downright conditioning. So, if you've been feeling depleted lately, consider this. You do not need more motivation. You don't need more discipline. You may need, simply need repair. Rest is not quitting. Please hear that. Repeat it out loud, write it somewhere. Rest is not quitting. It isn't falling behind. It's how the system recalibrates. Now, as always, if you have any questions about what we talked about today, if you have anything to add, if you have any suggestions, or if you have another topic that you would like to touch on, please reach out to me. I love the feedback. I was actually told by somebody that they were not able to reach out to me through um, the podcast platform. So I do have an AnchorLight Psychology Facebook, and that's where some people have been reaching out to me. So feel free to send me a message through there. Let's have a conversation. You can leave a comment there even and start a conversation with other people because there have been quite a few people who have reached out to me with questions and really wanting to engage. So I think it would be really, really productive and really healthy just to know that there's other people who are thinking the same thing you're thinking, going through similar things, and just want to have that connection. So feel free to reach out. Thank you for hanging out. This is Chrissy with AnchorLight Psychology, and you are allowed to rest here.